On the evening of March 11, 1992, a United States Navy sonar operator stationed aboard a submarine off the coast of Southern California detected something that should not have been possible. An object moving underwater at an estimated speed exceeding 150 knots appeared on passive sonar arrays before vanishing into the thermal layers of the Pacific. No known submersible, no torpedo, no marine animal could achieve such velocity beneath the waves. But this was not an isolated event. For decades, the waters surrounding Catalina Island have been the site of recurring encounters with objects that defy conventional explanation. Navy personnel, commercial fishermen, Coast Guard pilots, and civilian witnesses have reported lights beneath the surface, disc-shaped craft emerging from the ocean, and radar contacts that accelerate beyond the capabilities of human technology. Tonight, we descend into those cold, dark waters. Take a slow breath, let your shoulders drop, settle into this moment. We're going to explore a mystery that has persisted for over 70 years, hidden in the depths off the California coast, where the ocean floor plunges to over 3,000 feet, and the currents carry secrets that have never been fully explained. This is a story told through declassified documents, witness testimony, and the stubborn persistence of the unexplained. Let the day release its hold on you. We begin. Chapter 1. The Deep Channel. The waters off Southern California hold a particular kind of darkness. Between the mainland and Catalina Island lies the San Pedro Channel, a stretch of ocean where the seafloor drops sharply into underwater canyons and basins carved by ancient geological forces. At its deepest points, the channel reaches over 3,000 feet, creating an environment of perpetual cold and pressure where sunlight has never penetrated. This is not merely an oceanographic curiosity. The San Pedro Channel and the waters surrounding Catalina Island form one of the most militarily significant maritime zones on the west coast. Naval operations have been conducted here since World War II. Submarine training exercises, sonar testing, and classified underwater research have made these waters a proving ground for America's undersea capabilities. And it is here, in this intersection of deep water and military presence, that the USO phenomenon has persisted. USO stands for Unidentified Submerged Object, a term that emerged in Navy and Coast Guard reports to describe anomalous contacts detected beneath the ocean's surface. Unlike UFOs, which have gained significant public attention, USOs remain largely undiscussed, their encounters buried in classified logs and incident reports that only occasionally surface through Freedom of Information Act requests or the testimony of retired personnel. The Catalina Island incidents represent one of the most concentrated and long-lasting clusters of USO activity ever documented. Reports span from the 1940s through the present day, creating a pattern that cannot be easily dismissed as misidentification or sensor error. Consider the geography. Catalina Island sits approximately 22 miles southwest of Los Angeles, a rugged landmass of 75 square miles with steep cliffs and protected coves. During World War II, the island served as a training ground and strategic observation post. Military installations dotted its coastline. Radar stations scanned the horizon for enemy aircraft. Submarine nets protected harbours. It was during this period that the first recorded USO encounters began appearing in Navy communications. Sonar operators aboard destroyers and submarine chasers reported contacts that behaved unlike any known vessel. Objects would appear at depth, accelerate to speeds that should have caused catastrophic cavitation, then vanish from tracking systems entirely. One report from 1943, declassified in 1998, describes an incident in which a submarine chaser, pursuing what was believed to be a Japanese submarine, recorded sonar returns from an object descending vertically at a rate exceeding 300 feet per second. The object reached a calculated depth of over 2,500 feet before contact was lost. No submarine of that era, Japanese, German or American, could dive beyond approximately 600 feet without risking hull collapse. The report was filed with a notation: contact characteristics inconsistent with known vessels or marine life. This phrase would appear again and again in subsequent decades. After the war, military activity around Catalina did not diminish. The Navy maintained training operations. The Pacific Missile Range conducted tests, and the reports continued. Sonar contacts, visual sightings, radar returns, objects beneath the surface that moved with impossible speed and maneuverability. The waters remained active, the channel remained deep, and the mystery remained unresolved. Chapter 2: Patterns in the Archives. When researchers began compiling USO incidents through declassified documents and FOIA requests in the 1990s, a pattern emerged. The Catalina Island region showed a concentration of reports that far exceeded statistical expectation. This was not scattered noise. This was a recurring phenomenon. One of the earliest comprehensive analyses came from Dr. James McDonald, an atmospheric physicist at the University of Arizona, who in the 1960s investigated UFO and USO reports with scientific rigor. McDonald obtained Navy documents describing multiple incidents off the California coast, including several near Catalina. In a 1968 presentation to the American Institute of Aeronautics and Astronautics, McDonald referenced a 1951 incident in which a Navy patrol aircraft detected a large submerged object on magnetic anomaly detection equipment while flying over the San Pedro Channel. The object registered a magnetic signature comparable to a submarine, but its movement patterns were inconsistent with any known vessel. It appeared to hover at depth, then accelerate to over 100 knots before the aircraft lost contact. McDonald noted in his analysis, the speed characteristics alone eliminate all conventional explanations. No submarine then or now can achieve such velocity underwater. But McDonald's work was only the beginning. As more documents were declassified through the decades, researchers gained access to incident reports, communication logs, and technical analyses that had been classified for national security reasons. A 1957 report from Naval Air Station, North Island, described an incident in which a pilot conducting anti-submarine warfare training observed a disc-shaped object rise from the ocean approximately 10 miles west of Catalina Island. The pilot, a lieutenant commander with over 2,000 flight hours, described the object as approximately 40 feet in diameter with a metallic surface that appeared to rotate. It hovered briefly above the waves, then accelerated vertically at a rate the pilot estimated exceeded Mach 2 before vanishing from sight. The incident was logged. No follow-up investigation was conducted in any official capacity that appears in declassified records. In 1963, a Navy destroyer conducting exercises near Catalina tracked multiple sonar contacts over a 3-hour period. The objects appeared on passive sonar at various depths, moving in formation at speeds ranging from 80 to 120 knots. The sonar operator's log, obtained through FOIA request in 2002, describes the contacts as highly maneuverable, non-biological, source unknown. Attempts to intercept or identify the contacts were unsuccessful. The objects appeared to respond to the destroyer's movements, maintaining distance and eventually descending beyond the reach of the sonar array. What makes these incidents particularly significant is not merely their individual strangeness, but their consistency. The objects described share common characteristics: high underwater velocity, metallic or structured appearance when observed visually, and apparent awareness of human presence. This is not the behavior of whales, schools of fish, or oceanographic phenomena. Marine life does not maintain formation at 100 knots. Thermal layers and underwater currents do not create disc-shaped objects that rise from the ocean and accelerate into the sky. The Navy's own analyses, where they exist in declassified form, acknowledge the anomalous nature of these contacts, while offering no definitive explanation. The pattern suggests something operates beneath these waters with capabilities that exceed our current understanding of hydrodynamics, propulsion, and materials science. And the incidents have not stopped. Chapter 3. The Fishermen's Accounts. Beyond the military documentation, civilian witnesses have provided decades of consistent testimony regarding unusual activity in the waters around Catalina Island. Commercial fishermen, charter boat operators, and recreational sailors have described encounters that mirror the characteristics found in Navy reports: objects beneath the surface, unusual lights, and craft that emerge from or descend into the ocean. These accounts do not come from UFO enthusiasts or conspiracy theorists. They come from individuals whose livelihoods depend on understanding the ocean, who can distinguish between a school of fish, a submarine, and something that defies categorization. In 1975, a commercial fishing vessel captain named Douglas Hess reported an incident that occurred approximately 15 miles southwest of Catalina Island. Hess, who had spent over 20 years fishing these waters, was returning to port shortly after sunset when his crew noticed an amber-coloured light beneath the surface. The light appeared to be moving parallel to the boat at a depth Hess estimated at 50 to 75 feet. In an interview conducted by researcher Preston Dennett in 1989, Hess described what happened next. The light got brighter, and then this object came up out of the water about 100 yards off our starboard side. It was disc-shaped, maybe 30 feet across, water streaming off it, no sound. It hovered there for maybe 10 seconds, then shot straight up and disappeared. The whole thing took less than 30 seconds. Hess reported the incident to the Coast Guard. According to his account, the Coast Guard operator asked if he had been drinking. No investigation was conducted. Similar reports appear with notable frequency in the archives of civilian UFO research organizations. The Mutual UFO Network, MUFON, and the National UFO Reporting Center, NOFORC, contain dozens of reports from the Catalina region spanning decades. In 1989, a charter boat captain named Martin Torres described observing a glowing green sphere beneath his boat while anchored near the isthmus on Catalina's west coast. Torres stated the object appeared to be approximately 6 feet in diameter and was clearly structured, not bioluminescence or organic matter. It moved beneath the boat in a deliberate pattern, circling twice before descending out of sight. In 1991, a group of recreational divers reported seeing a metallic cylinder resting on the seafloor at a depth of approximately 90 feet near Shiprock, off Catalina's eastern shore. When they descended to investigate, the object appeared to vibrate, then lifted off the bottom and moved horizontally through the water before disappearing into deeper water. The divers described no propeller, no propulsion wash, and no sound. These civilian accounts lack the technical precision of military reports, but they share consistent elements: structured objects, intelligent movement, and performance characteristics that defy conventional explanation. What makes these testimonies particularly compelling is their persistence across generations. Fishermen who have worked these waters for decades report encounters that span from the 1960s to recent years. The phenomenon has not diminished. If anything, with improved camera technology and increased recreational marine activity, documentation has become more frequent. Yet these reports remain largely ignored by mainstream media and scientific institutions. The witnesses are credible, their observations detailed, but the subject matter carries a stigma that prevents serious investigation. The ocean keeps its secrets, but the witnesses remember what they saw. Chapter 4. March 1992. The Submarine Incident. The most detailed USO encounter from the Catalina region emerged not from declassified documents or civilian reports, but from the testimony of a retired Navy sonar operator who came forward in 2015 after decades of silence. The operator, who requested anonymity and is referred to in interviews only as Petty Officer J, served aboard a fast attack submarine conducting training exercises off the Southern California coast in March 1992. The submarine was operating at depth in the San Pedro Channel, running passive sonar drills to detect surface vessels and potential underwater contacts. It was during a routine monitoring sweep that Petty Officer J detected something that should not have existed. In an interview with investigative journalist George Knapp in 2015, Petty Officer J described the contact. "I picked up a single signature on passive sonar bearing approximately 180 degrees. Relative estimated range about 12,000 yards. The signature was clear, not biologics. It was mechanical, structured, but the speed was impossible." According to Petty Officer J, the contact was moving at an estimated speed exceeding 150 knots underwater. For context, the fastest torpedoes in the US arsenal at that time travelled at approximately 50 knots. The fastest submarines could achieve perhaps 35 knots when submerged. Marine life, even the fastest species like marlins or swordfish, reach maximum speeds of around 60 miles per hour, roughly 52 knots, for very brief bursts. This object was moving nearly 3 times faster than the most advanced human technology could achieve underwater. Petty Officer J immediately reported the contact to his commanding officer. The submarine's captain ordered the crew to track the object and prepare for potential evasive maneuvers. Though both captain and crew understood that if the object was hostile, their ability to evade or defend would be limited. The contact remained on sonar for approximately 6 minutes. During that time, Petty Officer J noted that the object appeared to alter depth multiple times, ascending and descending through thermal layers that should have disrupted sonar tracking. Yet the signature remained clear and distinct. Then, without warning, the contact accelerated. Petty Officer J estimated the final speed at over 200 knots before the object descended beyond the range of the passive sonar array, disappearing into the deep water of the channel. The captain logged the incident. According to Petty Officer J, the crew was instructed not to discuss the contact with anyone outside the submarine. When the submarine returned to port, a debriefing was conducted by naval intelligence personnel. Petty Officer J was questioned about the technical details of the contact, the reliability of the sonar equipment, and his certainty regarding the speed calculations. The debriefing concluded with what Petty Officer J described as a non-explanation. "They told us the equipment likely malfunctioned, or we'd picked up acoustic anomalies from underwater terrain. But I'd been operating sonar for 5 years at that point. I knew what a malfunction looked like. I knew what terrain echoes sounded like. This was neither." No further investigation was conducted, at least none that Petty Officer J was made aware of. The incident was classified, and the crew moved on to subsequent training operations. It wasn't until over 2 decades later, after retirement, that Petty Officer J chose to speak publicly about the encounter. His motivation, he stated, was not to prove the existence of extraterrestrial craft, but to add his testimony to a growing body of evidence that something real and unexplained operates in our oceans. His account stands as one of the most detailed military testimonies regarding USO activity near Catalina Island. It is corroborated by the pattern of reports that came before and after, and it represents the kind of encounter that defies easy dismissal. The object was real. The speed was impossible, and the Navy logged it and moved on. Chapter 5. The Physics of the Impossible. To understand why the Catalina USO incidents are so significant, we must examine the physics of underwater movement and why the reported speeds and maneuvers defy our current understanding of hydrodynamics. Water is approximately 800 times denser than air. This density creates enormous resistance to movement. Any object traveling through water must displace the fluid in front of it, while managing the pressure and friction acting on its surface. As speed increases, these forces grow exponentially, creating what engineers call drag. For conventional submarines and torpedoes, drag is the limiting factor that prevents high-speed underwater travel. Modern submarines use streamlined hull designs and powerful propulsion systems to minimize drag, but even the most advanced vessels cannot exceed approximately 35 to 40 knots when submerged. Beyond this threshold, the energy required to overcome drag becomes prohibitively high, and the noise generated by propulsion makes stealth impossible. Torpedoes, which sacrifice stealth for speed, can reach 50 to 60 knots by using high-energy propulsion systems that are effective only for short distances. The fastest experimental torpedoes, utilizing supercavitation technology, have achieved speeds approaching 200 knots in test conditions. Supercavitation works by creating a gas bubble around the torpedo, reducing water contact and therefore drag. However, these weapons are extremely loud, difficult to control, and have limited range. Now consider the objects reported in the Catalina incidents. Witnesses and sonar operators describe speeds of 100 to 200 knots, sustained over minutes rather than seconds, with apparent directional control and the ability to accelerate, decelerate, and change depth without observable propulsion systems. This is not merely advanced technology. This is a fundamental departure from known physics as applied to underwater travel. Dr. Bruce Maccabee, an optical physicist who worked for the US Navy and later became a prominent UFO researcher, analyzed several USO reports, including those from the Catalina region. In a 1995 paper, Maccabee calculated the energy requirements for an object to travel at 150 knots underwater without creating detectable acoustic signatures or cavitation bubbles. His conclusion: the energy density required would exceed anything achievable with chemical propulsion or known electric systems. We are either witnessing sensor errors on a massive and consistent scale, or we are observing technology that operates on principles not currently understood by mainstream physics. Maccabee's analysis highlights a critical point. If these objects are real, if the sonar contacts, radar returns, and visual observations are accurate, then they represent a technology that has solved problems we have not yet solved. Problems of propulsion, energy storage, drag reduction, and materials science that remain at the frontier of human engineering. Some researchers have proposed that the objects might utilize a form of field propulsion, generating an electromagnetic or gravitational field that reduces interaction with water. This is highly speculative, but it aligns with certain theoretical physics models that suggest localized manipulation of spacetime or field effects could reduce inertial mass and friction. Others have suggested that the objects might be using plasma sheaths or advanced supercavitation systems far beyond current human capability. Again, speculative, but within the realm of theoretical possibility. What cannot be easily explained away is the consistency of the reports and the impossibility of the performance characteristics using any known technology. These objects, if real, represent either a classified human technology decades ahead of publicly known science, or they represent something non-human. The physics remain impossible, yet the reports persist. Chapter 6. The Phoenix Lights Connection. The Catalina USO incidents do not exist in isolation. Researchers have noted correlations between USO activity off the California coast and UFO sightings in the same region, suggesting a possible connection between objects operating underwater and those observed in the atmosphere. One of the most significant connections occurred on the night of March 13, 1997, during the widely witnessed Phoenix Lights event. While the primary sightings occurred over Arizona, Multiple witnesses in Southern California reported observing similar formations of lights moving over the ocean near Catalina Island on the same night. Charter boat captain Larry Knoll was conducting a night fishing expedition approximately 12 miles west of Catalina when he and his clients observed a formation of amber lights moving silently across the sky from northwest to southeast. The formation consisted of 5 distinct lights arranged in a V shape, moving at what Knoll estimated was a slow but steady pace. What makes Knoll's observation particularly relevant to the USO discussion is what happened next. As the formation passed overhead and began to recede toward the southern horizon, one of the lights appeared to descend toward the ocean surface. Knoll grabbed binoculars and observed the light slow its descent and hover approximately 50 feet above the water. It remained stationary for roughly 30 seconds, then descended into the ocean without a splash or visible disturbance. Knoll reported the sighting to the Coast Guard. No investigation was conducted. This incident, while not officially documented in military records available through FOIA, appears in multiple civilian research databases and was investigated by MUFON field investigators in 1997. The correlation with the Phoenix Lights event suggests that whatever was observed over Arizona may have had a broader operational range, including maritime activity off the California coast. Further connections emerge when examining other UFO sightings in the Catalina region that involve objects transitioning between air and water. A 2004 incident, investigated by researcher Preston Dennett, involved multiple witnesses at a beach party near Avalon who observed a disc-shaped object descend from the sky and enter the water approximately half a mile offshore. Witnesses described the object as metallic, roughly 30 feet in diameter, with a slight rotation. It entered the water at a steep angle with minimal splash, and an orange glow was visible beneath the surface for several seconds before fading. One witness, a lifeguard with extensive ocean experience, stated in an interview, "I've seen planes ditch in the water. I've seen boats sink. This was neither. It went into the water like it belonged there, like it was designed for it." These transitional sightings, objects moving between sky and sea, suggest that USOs and UFOs may not be separate phenomena, but rather different observations of the same objects operating in different environments. If this hypothesis is correct, it would explain the clustering of reports around Catalina, a location that offers both deep water and proximity to populated areas where aerial sightings are more likely to be witnessed and reported. It would also suggest that whatever these objects are, they're capable of operating across multiple domains: space, atmosphere, and ocean. This multi-domain capability would require technology far more sophisticated than anything publicly known, technology that can manage the vastly different physical demands of vacuum, air, and water. The Phoenix Lights connection remains speculative but compelling. It hints at a larger pattern, a suggestion that the objects observed in our skies and those detected in our oceans may be part of a coordinated presence that we are only beginning to document and understand. Chapter 7. Official Silence and Institutional Response. Despite decades of consistent reports, credible witnesses, and technical data, the official response from military and government institutions regarding USO activity near Catalina Island has been characterized by silence, dismissal, and classification. The United States Navy, which has the most comprehensive data on underwater contacts, has released very little information regarding USO incidents. Most of what is known comes from FOIA requests, whistleblower testimony, and declassified documents that were released for reasons unrelated to USO phenomena. When pressed for comment on specific incidents, Navy public affairs offices have typically responded with variations of the same statement. Sonar contacts that cannot be immediately identified are logged and investigated according to standard protocols, but most are ultimately attributed to marine life, oceanographic conditions, or equipment malfunctions. This standard response does not account for the consistency and specificity of the reports. It does not explain objects traveling at 150 knots. It does not address visual confirmations by trained pilots and crew. And it does not engage with the technical analyses that show these contacts exceed the capabilities of known technology. The reluctance to engage seriously with USO phenomena appears to stem from several institutional factors. First, acknowledging unexplained underwater contacts raises significant national security concerns. The ocean is a domain of strategic military importance. Admitting that unidentified objects operate in these waters with impunity challenges the narrative of naval superiority and control. Second, the subject carries the stigma of UFO research, a field that has historically been dismissed as pseudoscience, despite growing evidence and recent government acknowledgement of unexplained aerial phenomena. Institutions risk credibility when engaging with topics that have been ridiculed for decades. Third, there may be classified programs or knowledge that cannot be publicly discussed. It is possible that the Navy and other defense agencies know more about USO activity than they have disclosed, and that information remains compartmentalized for reasons of national security or strategic advantage. The 2004 USS Nimitz incident, which involved both aerial and underwater components, demonstrated that institutional silence can persist even when multiple credible witnesses come forward. Commander David Fravor and other pilots observed objects that performed maneuvers impossible for known aircraft and appeared to respond to the presence of Navy vessels. Radar operators detected the objects. Yet official acknowledgement came only after years of pressure and leaked documentation. Similarly, the 2019 creation of the Unidentified Aerial Phenomena Task Force, UAPTF, and subsequent investigations focused primarily on aerial encounters. While some incidents involved objects entering water, such as the 2019 encounters off the coast of San Diego, the emphasis has remained on aerial phenomena rather than submerged objects. This institutional bias toward aerial over underwater phenomena may reflect the reality that atmospheric encounters are more frequently witnessed and documented, or it may reflect a strategic decision to focus public attention away from underwater operations where military vulnerabilities are more acute. Whatever the reason, the result is the same. USO phenomena remain under-investigated, under-discussed, and under-reported in official channels. The data exists, scattered across decades of logs, reports, and witness testimony. But comprehensive analysis and transparent disclosure have not occurred. The silence continues. The waters off Catalina Island remain active, and the questions remain unanswered. Chapter 8. Theories and Interpretations. When confronted with phenomena that defy conventional explanation, researchers and analysts propose theories that range from the prosaic to the extraordinary. The Catalina USO incidents have generated speculation across this entire spectrum. Natural phenomena and misidentification. The most conservative explanation holds that USO reports result from misidentification of natural oceanic phenomena. Bioluminescence, particularly from large concentrations of dinoflagellates, can create glowing patterns beneath the surface that might be mistaken for structured objects. Underwater volcanic activity, methane seeps, and acoustic phenomena caused by ocean currents and thermal layers could potentially create sonar contacts that appear anomalous. However, this explanation struggles to account for the specific characteristics reported in Catalina incidents. Metallic objects observed visually, speeds exceeding 100 knots, and behavior suggesting intelligent control. Bioluminescence does not create disc-shaped craft. Thermal layers do not rise from the ocean and accelerate into the sky. Classified military technology. A second theory proposes that the objects are classified military assets, advanced submarines, drones, or experimental craft developed in secret programs and tested in the waters off California. The US military has a long history of developing technology in secret, and the Catalina region's proximity to naval installations makes it a plausible testing ground. This theory has merit. It would explain the recurring nature of the sightings and the Navy's reluctance to discuss them. However, it raises difficult questions. If these are human craft, why have they remained classified for over 70 years? Why would the Navy allow its own personnel to be confused and concerned by technology they should at least be aware exists? And how has this technology, which appears to violate known physics, remained entirely secret without any leaks, defectors, or paper trails? The timeline also presents problems. Reports from the 1940s and 1950s describe objects with capabilities that would be revolutionary even today. If this was human technology, we are discussing a classified program that has maintained a multi-generational lead of many decades over publicly known science. Extraterrestrial hypothesis. The extraterrestrial hypothesis suggests that the objects are craft of non-human origin, potentially operated by intelligent beings from other worlds. This theory aligns with broader UFO research and is supported by the objects' apparent technological superiority and their behavior, which suggests intentional navigation and awareness. Proponents of this theory note that if an advanced civilization were monitoring Earth, underwater locations would offer several advantages: concealment from surface observation, proximity to population centers for study, and access to resources. The ocean covers over 70% of Earth's surface and remains largely unexplored. It would be a logical choice for a covert presence. Critics argue that the extraterrestrial hypothesis lacks direct evidence. We have no recovered craft, no confirmed biological samples, no communication or contact that has been verified beyond doubt. The theory requires accepting not only the existence of extraterrestrial intelligence, but also its presence on Earth and its interest in our oceans. Interdimensional or non-physical phenomena. A more speculative theory proposes that USOs may be interdimensional in nature, representing phenomena that exist partially or wholly outside our conventional space-time. This theory draws from quantum physics and theoretical models suggesting multiple dimensions or parallel realities. Under this model, the object's ability to appear and disappear, to move without apparent propulsion, and to violate physical laws might be explained by their interaction with dimensions we cannot fully perceive or measure. This theory is difficult to test and lies at the edge of scientific speculation. Unknown natural intelligence. Finally, some researchers have proposed that the objects might represent an unknown form of natural intelligence native to Earth's oceans, a species or phenomenon that has evolved in the deep sea and possesses capabilities we cannot yet comprehend. This theory is supported by the fact that the deep ocean remains one of the least explored environments on Earth. However, the technological appearance of the objects, metallic surfaces, structured shapes, apparent propulsion systems, makes this theory difficult to reconcile with biological evolution as we understand it. Each theory has strengths and weaknesses. None fully explains the totality of the evidence. What remains clear is that something real is occurring in these waters, something that has been witnessed, measured, and documented repeatedly across decades. The question is not whether the phenomena exist, but what they are. Chapter 9. Recent Encounters and Continuing Activity. The USO phenomena near Catalina Island has not diminished with time. If anything, the increasing sophistication of detection technology and the growing number of witnesses with recording equipment has led to more frequent documentation of unexplained underwater and transmedium activity. In 2013, a group of recreational boaters reported observing a large dark object beneath their vessel while anchored near the backside of Catalina Island. One member of the group, an amateur underwater photographer, dove to investigate and captured brief video footage on a GoPro camera. The footage, later analysed by researcher Chris O'Brien, shows what appears to be a structured, elongated object, approximately 40 feet in length, resting on or hovering just above the seafloor at a depth of roughly 60 feet. As the diver approached, the object appeared to move, creating a disturbance in the sediment before accelerating horizontally and disappearing from view. The entire sequence lasted less than 20 seconds. The video is grainy and inconclusive, but it represents one of the few pieces of visual documentation from the Catalina region. In 2016, multiple witnesses reported seeing lights beneath the surface during an evening boat excursion near Avalon Harbour. The lights, described as amber or orange in colour, moved in formation at depth before ascending toward the surface. As they approached the surface, the lights dimmed and appeared to merge into a single larger source before submerging again and fading from view. These modern encounters echo the patterns established in earlier decades: lights beneath the surface, structured objects observed at depth, and behaviour suggesting intentional movement rather than random drift or animal behaviour. Perhaps most significantly, the 2019 USS Omaha incident, though it occurred off the coast of San Diego rather than Catalina, demonstrated that USO activity continues within the broader Southern California maritime region. On July 15, 2019, the USS Omaha tracked multiple radar contacts described as spherical objects, approximately 6 feet in diameter. The objects moved at speeds ranging from 46 to 158 miles per hour and demonstrated transmedium capability, with at least one object entering the water without loss of speed. Infrared video from the incident, leaked to filmmaker Jeremy Corbell and subsequently verified as authentic by the Pentagon, shows one of the objects descending toward the ocean surface and disappearing beneath the waves. A submarine was dispatched to search for debris or any evidence of a crash, but no wreckage was recovered. The USS Omaha incident received significant media attention and renewed public interest in USO phenomena. It also prompted questions about the frequency of such encounters and the extent of military knowledge regarding underwater anomalies. Congressional hearings on unidentified aerial phenomena in 2022 and 2023 included references to transmedium objects, though details remained classified. Testimony from former intelligence officials suggested that the Department of Defense possesses extensive data on objects that move between air and water, data that has not been made public. The continuing nature of these incidents suggests that whatever is occurring in the waters off Southern California is not a historical curiosity, but an ongoing phenomenon. The technology has not disappeared, the objects have not ceased their operations, and witnesses continue to come forward with accounts that align with decades of prior reports. The ocean remains active. The mystery remains unresolved. Chapter 10. The Unspoken Questions. As we reach the deeper waters of this investigation, we must confront the questions that linger beneath the surface of every documented encounter, every witness testimony, every sonar contact that defies explanation. If these objects are real, and the weight of evidence suggests they are, then what are we to make of their presence? What does it mean that our oceans may harbour technology or intelligence that we do not understand and cannot control? For the military personnel who have encountered these phenomena, the implications are profound. Sonar operators, submarine crews, pilots, and surface vessel captains are trained to identify and respond to threats. They operate sophisticated equipment designed to detect and track anything moving through the water or across the sky. Yet these objects appear to exceed the capabilities of that equipment and challenge the assumptions on which naval operations are based. The recurring nature of the encounters suggests intentionality. These are not random events. The objects return to the same regions, display similar characteristics, and appear to operate with purpose. This raises uncomfortable questions. Are we being observed? Are our waters being used for purposes we cannot determine? And if so, by whom or what? For scientists, the phenomena present a different kind of challenge. Science progresses by investigating anomalies, by examining data that does not fit existing models. Yet the stigma surrounding UFO and USO research has prevented mainstream scientific institutions from engaging seriously with this data. The result is a knowledge gap, an area of genuine mystery that remains largely unexplored by the very disciplines best equipped to investigate it. Some researchers have argued that we are witnessing evidence of a non-human intelligence, a civilization whose technology allows it to move freely through our oceans and skies. This hypothesis, once considered fringe, has gained credibility as government officials and former military personnel have acknowledged the reality of unexplained encounters. Others maintain that the objects represent highly classified human technology, projects so compartmentalized that even senior military officers are kept unaware. This explanation preserves the notion that humans remain the most advanced intelligence on Earth, but it requires accepting a level of secrecy and technological capability that strains credibility. A third possibility, less frequently discussed, is that we are observing natural phenomena that science has not yet categorized, something that exists within the laws of physics but operates in ways we have not yet discovered or understood. Each explanation carries profound implications. Each changes our understanding of our place in the universe, our relationship with the ocean, and the limits of human knowledge. What we know with certainty is limited. We know that credible witnesses have reported encounters. We know that military sensors have detected objects moving at impossible speeds. We know that these reports span decades and show remarkable consistency. And we know that official investigations have been limited, classified, or non-existent. What we do not know is far greater. We do not know what these objects are. We do not know where they come from. We do not know their purpose. We do not know if they are aware of us, indifferent to us, or actively studying us. The waters off Catalina Island hold these secrets still. Beneath the surface, in the cold darkness where light fades and pressure builds, something moves, something that has moved for decades, something that suggests our understanding of reality may be incomplete. The mystery endures, unresolved and profound. Chapter 11. The Weight of Testimony. Throughout this investigation, we have examined documents, analysed data, and considered theories. But beneath all of this lies something more fundamental: the testimony of individuals who witnessed events they could not explain. These are not people seeking attention or fame. They are Navy sonar operators who spent decades in service, commercial fishermen whose livelihoods depend on understanding the ocean, pilots with thousands of flight hours, Coast Guard personnel trained to observe and report with accuracy. Many of these witnesses waited years or decades before speaking publicly, held back by institutional pressure, fear of ridicule, or simple uncertainty about whether anyone would believe them. When they finally chose to share their accounts, they did so with careful detail, consistency, and often with evident discomfort at the strangeness of what they had witnessed. Consider Petty Officer J, the submarine sonar operator whose testimony we explored earlier. After his 2015 interview, he largely withdrew from public discussion, declining further interviews and requests for appearances. In his final public statement, he said, "I came forward because I believe people deserve to know that these things are real. I saw what I saw. The Navy knows what it knows. And for whatever reason, we're not talking about it openly. Maybe that will change. I hope it does." Or consider Douglas Hess, the fishing captain who observed an object emerge from the ocean in 1975. Hess passed away in 2003, but his account was documented in interviews and written statements collected by researchers. Before his death, he spoke with investigator Preston Dennett and reiterated his account without embellishment. "I know what I saw. I've spent my life on the water. I know every boat, every animal, every natural phenomenon these waters can produce. What I saw that night was none of those things." The weight of these testimonies accumulates. Individual accounts might be dismissed as misperception or error, but when dozens of witnesses across decades describe similar characteristics, objects moving at impossible speeds, metallic craft entering and exiting the water, lights beneath the surface moving with apparent intelligence, the cumulative evidence becomes difficult to ignore. This is not proof in the scientific sense. Witness testimony, even from credible observers, is subject to perceptual error and memory distortion. But it is evidence, and evidence that points consistently toward the same conclusion. Something real and unexplained is occurring. The challenge for investigators is to separate signal from noise, to identify the reports that contain genuine anomalies from those that can be explained conventionally. This requires careful analysis, cross-referencing with technical data where available, and a willingness to follow the evidence wherever it leads, even when it leads toward conclusions that challenge our understanding of reality. The testimony matters. It matters because it represents real human experience, observation by trained personnel in positions to know what they were observing. It matters because it creates a historical record, a documentation of phenomena that might otherwise be lost or dismissed. And it matters because it invites us to take seriously the possibility that our oceans conceal mysteries we have barely begun to investigate. These witnesses carried the weight of their experiences, often in silence, sometimes for decades. When they spoke, they offered us a window into something profound. The least we can do is listen with the seriousness their testimony deserves. Chapter 12. The Deep Unknown. We have journeyed through decades of encounters, examined evidence and testimony, considered theories that range from the mundane to the extraordinary. As our investigation draws toward its close, we must acknowledge what remains: uncertainty, mystery, and the vast unknown depths of the ocean itself. The waters off Catalina Island are deep. At over 3,000 feet in places, the San Pedro Channel drops into darkness, where pressure crushes conventional submersibles and where much of the seafloor remains unmapped and unexplored. Humans have explored more of the surface of the moon than we have explored the deep ocean. The abyss keeps its secrets. Perhaps this is fitting. The ocean has always been a place of mystery in human consciousness, a realm beyond our natural element, where strange creatures exist in forms that challenge imagination. The discovery of deep-sea life, bioluminescent fish, giant squid, organisms that survive in conditions of crushing pressure and perpetual darkness, has repeatedly demonstrated that life finds ways to exist in environments we once thought impossible. Could something else exist there? Something that is not life as we understand it, but technology, intelligence, a presence that has adapted to or chosen the deep ocean as its domain? These are questions we cannot yet answer with certainty. What we can say is that the pattern of reports, the consistency of observations, and the inability of conventional explanations to account for the phenomena suggest that something genuine is occurring. Whether that something is extraterrestrial, terrestrial, but unknown, or classified human technology remains unresolved. The investigation continues, though it proceeds slowly and often against institutional resistance. Researchers compile databases of encounters. Witnesses continue to come forward. New incidents occur and are documented. Slowly, incrementally, the body of evidence grows. Perhaps one day, disclosure will come. Perhaps the military will release more comprehensive data on underwater contacts. Perhaps a recovery will occur, physical evidence obtained, analysis conducted by independent scientists. Perhaps contact will be made in a way that removes all ambiguity, Or perhaps the mystery will persist, the objects continuing their operations beneath the waves, observed occasionally but never fully understood. A reminder that despite our technological advancement and scientific achievement, we remain small and uncertain in the face of phenomena that exceed our current grasp. The waters off Catalina Island remain. The channel still plunges into darkness. Ships still pass overhead, oblivious or unaware of what might move beneath them. And on quiet nights, when the ocean is calm and the stars reflect on the surface, fishermen and sailors, and those who know the sea, still report seeing lights beneath the water, moving with purpose through the cold depths. The mystery endures, the questions remain, and the search for answers continues, one encounter at a time, one testimony at a time, one piece of evidence at a time. We may never have all the answers, but the investigation itself matters. The pursuit of truth, even elusive truth, even truth that challenges our understanding, is a worthy endeavour. It reminds us that the universe is larger and stranger than we imagine, that mysteries remain, and that the unknown still calls to us from the depths. Let the investigation settle now. Let the questions drift. We have travelled deep tonight, through decades of encounters and testimony, through the cold waters off Catalina, where something moves in patterns we cannot yet fully explain. Take a slow breath, slow. Feel your body grow heavier, sinking gently like an object descending through water, deeper and deeper into rest. The ocean is vast, 3,000 feet deep in places, dropping into darkness where the pressure builds and the light fades to nothing. In that darkness, thermal layers create invisible boundaries. Currents move in patterns shaped by the moon and the Earth's rotation. Life exists in forms we are still discovering, and something else moves there too. Something that has been reported by witnesses for 70 years. Something detected on sonar. Something observed rising from the waves. We may never know with certainty what it is. The evidence accumulates but does not resolve. The mystery persists. Perhaps that is as it should be. Perhaps the universe maintains its mysteries, offering us glimpses but withholding final answers, inviting wonder rather than certainty. Breathe slowly. Let your thoughts drift like deep ocean currents, slow and inevitable. The San Pedro Channel remains. The Navy continues its operations. Fishermen still work these waters. And on certain nights, when conditions align, when the right witness happens to be in the right place, the lights appear beneath the surface, orange, amber, moving in formation, descending from sight. No sound, no explanation, just the dark water and the persistent strangeness of what moves within it. Let yourself drift now. The investigation can wait. The mysteries will still be there tomorrow, next month, next year. They have persisted this long. They will persist longer still. Your body is heavy now. Your breathing is slow and deep. The ocean carries you, supports you, a gentle darkness cradling you towards sleep. Somewhere off the California coast, the waters remain deep. The channel drops away into cold and pressure. And in that darkness, something moves, something real, something unexplained. But tonight, you can rest. The questions can wait. The search for truth continues, but it does not require your vigilance in this moment. Others are watching. Others are investigating. The work goes on. Let go now. Let the weight of evidence, the accumulated testimony, the decades of encounters all drift away. They are recorded. They are preserved. They are there when you need them. But for now, just breathe. Just drift. Just allow the gentle pull of sleep to take you deeper, past the light, past the thermal layers, past the point where questions matter, into the quiet dark, into rest, into sleep. The Catalina waters remain mysterious. The encounters persist, the phenomenon endures, but the question of what it all means, the search for final answers, the weight of the unexplained, these can wait until morning. For now, just this, the gentle dark, the slow breath, the inevitable descent into sleep. The lights beneath the surface fade, the sonar contacts quiet. The ocean keeps its secrets. and you release the need to know them, just for tonight. Just for now. Breathe, drift, sleep. The mystery is real. The phenomenon is documented. The evidence is preserved. And in the end, the truth remains open to interpretation.